Hello my dudes, Kadima back with another Dragon's Dogma 2 video, this time to talk about mages. Now, mage vocation is an interesting one. Playing as a mage, in my honest opinion, it's useless. And the reason being, your focus as playing as a mage is not going to be to do any damage, truly speaking. It's going to work as a support member of your party. You'll be healing your mates, you're going to be buffing your mates. Yes, you can do damage if you want to. There's a few spells that will give you some damage output. It's not going to be massive, but it can be good enough to keep you going. But I think it will be a waste of the mage's talents if you play it that way, as you are meant to heal your mates, you are meant to buff them and remove debuffs from them, such as poison or fire, and also to give them that lovely, sweet, infinite stamina. Which, if you are doing that to your mates, it's pretty boring, because you'll be kind of removed from the action. Now, mages are best used as your main pawn, or as any other pawn in your party. The thing is, it's hard to find a mage having the requirements as you want them to be precisely to the spot, because they will either have the infinite spell and the healing, but they will miss the spell that cures the debilitations, or they will have the healing, they will have the infinite stamina, but they will have no affinity boons, which sucks as well. But before I talk about my main pawn Gandalf here, which you can see is full of rabies with his red eyes, and if I was going to sleep here, he would probably kill everyone, which I can't sleep, which is a good thing. But let's talk about my Gandalf as a mage. Now, my Gandalf as a mage, if I go on to his stats, he's level 96. His health sucks because he's got a ring that makes it so. He only has 1261. His stamina is actually rubbish as well. He barely make it. It doesn't even make it to 1100. But when it comes to his magic, he's got 1144 magic. And when it comes to magic defense, this guy's got a 1168. His defense is actually not too bad either. He's 684. Knockdown power is a laugh, and knockdown resistance is a joke. But when it comes to his vocation, now, weapon skills to give to a good mage as a pawn. Any affinity, as I said. I prefer fire because it covers pretty much most of the enemies in the game. Celestial Paean, or whatever this is called, because this is what's gonna give you, most important of all, infinite stamina. He's gonna be stunned for a little bit, but, well, hopefully he won't be targeted by any enemies, because by then the enemies will be killed. You want him to have the Urgent Succor, which is the instant heal, which on top of his vocation inbuilt triangle holding heal, this comes very in handy because it heals instantly. And you want him to have High Heliodom, which is the spell to go for to cure debilitations such as Fire, Frostbite, Unconscious Sleep, Silence, Drench, Tear, Torch, Icebound, and Blighted. So it pretty much cures everything. When it comes to his core skills, Magic Bolt, unfortunately, he's a joke. It doesn't really do any damage. And not Anodyne, which is the inbuilt healing. The Focus Bolt, yeah, you just have to hold the square, but they really don't do that as pawns. Quick Spell, yeah, they don't really do that much either. It's more designed as if you are the player, you can activate Quick Spell. They don't really do it. And then they have Levitate, which unfortunately, in my experience, they forget to use it most times as main pawns and as mages. Augments, because my Gandalf has only made it, as you can see in the background here, he has only been a mage and he has only been a sorcerer. When it comes to his augments, he doesn't really have much going on for him. Poor man. In any case, I'm using him with Viatide, which increases the amount of health recovered by curatives and curative magics, which helps us. Asperity, which increases the likelihood of inflicting debilitations with your attacks, simply because he will actually buff himself with fire, and then he will cast bolts of fire, which will increase the likelihood of getting enemies on fire. perpetuation, which extends the durations of his buffs, sagacity, just because it increases his magic. The higher the magic, the bigger the heals. And antotropism, which augments his magic defense, simply because I have nothing better to give him. And exaltation, which it just increases the stamina recovery. If I had leveled him up as a thief, I would probably give him the augment that decreases the likelihood of him being targeted by enemies. In any case, when you are playing as a mage yourself, you can change a few little things, especially if you have access to more augments. But ultimately speaking, you should be doing the same thing. You should be healing, you should be buffing, etc, etc. Now, I'm going to showcase a few examples of how it works when you play as a mage and how much of a disastrous thing it can turn to be when fighting certain bosses. And as you can see in any other of my previous build videos, having your main pawn as a mage built exactly how you want him to be, having the exact spells you want them to have, is very handy, because he will do what you want him to do without you even having to ask him to do so. Especially if he has the surgeon specialization, which allows the skill to, by his own initiative, whose curatives on me and other allies. So if you have a mage focused as a support member of your party with surgeon, that's the top mage in my opinion. When you play as a mage, you don't really get much of specializations, it doesn't really matter, so this doesn't count. The other things to have in your party when you play as a mage, if you are the mage yourself, is that you will always need a warrior or a fighter. In this case, I have a fighter at the moment, but in my video examples, I actually changed to a warrior because I wanted to showcase how bad things can go if you choose the wrong kind of warrior. And I'm going to explain that in the videos following and the examples following my explanation of the builds. You want to have a thief or a sorcerer, and if in my case, because I was playing as a mage, I changed Gandalf into a sorcerer. Unfortunately, as a sorcerer, Gandalf is not very clever. He will use the wrong spells at the wrong time, he will get too close to the enemies to cast his spells, which makes no sense. So again, I truly recommend that your main pawn is a mage, and that you don't ever play as a mage, because it's a pain in the ass. It's not very useful, you are wasting your own talents, you are going to be away from the action. This is a funny vocation exactly because of this. If you play as a mage yourself, I would classify mages as being one of the worst classes, just above trickster. But if you have your main pawn as a mage, it's the best possible vocation for your main pawn, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to equipment, my Gandalf is using, of course, the Dragon's Nose. He's got the Cleric's Wood, he's got the Sacred Robe, he's got the Scholar's Breeches, and he's got some fancy-ass cloak just to give him a good fancy look. When it comes to the rings, I'm giving him the Ring of Articulacy and the Ring of Recitation, which both increase and slightly increase the casting speed for spells. So it means he will buff us faster, he will heal us faster, and he will cast his spells slightly faster. It is important that he remains at very lightweight, because he can move himself around faster. Maybe he's actually fast enough to dodge some attacks. But again, the poor guy is full of rabies at the moment. I actually need to kill him to get rid of those red eyes, because they are a little bit annoying. The way he talks back at me, it's absolutely disrespectful, and I don't appreciate that. In any case, let's talk about some examples of me playing as the mage myself, and what happens when you are not the center of attention when it comes to damage output in your party. If you watched any of my previous videos, you know I like to use dragons and the headless phantom people as an example of my fights. But in this case, me playing as a mage, as you can see, I'm trying to buff my friends with fire, which I did. But did you just notice that my warrior threw Liana in the air for no reason? And now he came to me to do the same.
Does he understand that I am a mage? He clearly doesn't. And then he threw the thief again for no reason. So this is what I'm talking about. If you playing as a mage just so happen to have the wrong kind of company in your party, and that being said, I mean pawns that are not designed correctly, because I understand that that skill is helpful to transverse certain areas, but for middle combat I don't see why that is a necessity, as the pawns will not interact with themselves accurately. As you saw that he cast the thief up in the air, it was absolutely pointless. And now he dragged Gandalf and he managed to give Gandalf a bit more rabies. As you can see, I have changed Gandalf to be a sorcerer. And you can... Why is he throwing me up in the air again? Did you see that? Why? Why is the warrior constantly just coming to me to throw me up in the air? Why? And he's coming back to me. As you see, he does not have the... just the intelligence, the AI programming to just focus on the enemies. Look at what the warrior is doing right now. He's running in circles around me. Why? I'm pressing go, as you can see on the bottom left corner. I'm pressing go so he goes for the enemy, but he finds it way more useful to just run around in circles next to me. So yeah, playing as a mage can be incredibly more frustrating than it needs to be because of things like this. For example, you see Lyanna, the thief, is on the back of the dragon, spamming carve, not even hitting the bloody thing. My Gandalf is casting Maelstrom 1 centimeter away from the dragon, so he's never really going to cast it properly because he's putting himself in the way of the dragon's spells. He does actually manage to cast it because the dragon decided to fly up in the air, but God, this was painful for me to play, and I bet it was painful for all of you to watch, because this party right here with me as a mage is an absolute mess. I can say that I intentionally summoned this warrior to showcase why having the warrior with the wrong skills, especially when you play as a mage, will make your party go down pretty bad, with bad results. Now for this next example, you see I actually changed the warrior. I just called someone who happened to be a Sphinx mother, but I'm fighting the phantom guy. I want you to take notice on what's about to happen to my thief. So I'm here trying to buff them, right? Minding my own business, being a mage, in my little corner, and Lyanna just got grabbed by the phantom guy, and then she flew off and died. Well done. As you know, if I was not the mage, I would probably have tried to stop that spell from happening by trying to stagger the headless guy in the middle of his spell casting. But me being a mage, I do not have the damage or the stagger capabilities to do that. So now I'm relying on the warrior. This warrior is actually better. I made sure I got a warrior that did not have that jumping nonsense business. I made sure he had roar to get the enemy's attention, to try to focus its attacks on itself, which is actually working. You can see the Sphinx is working as the damage sponge of the party, but by now the thief, which should be doing some damage now, is gone. My Gandalf decides that the only way to tackle enemies is to cast Meteor all the time. And this enemy teleports. He can actually get away from the Meteor quite quickly. And in the process, the Sphinx Mother actually loses the aggro. I also want you to notice there's another sorcerer right next to me, which is someone else's pawn that just happened to be walking by. So he's actually helping in doing the damage to this enemy. Because if it was up to my Sphinx Mother, which you can see is out of stamina for whatever reason, or my Gandalf that believes casting meteors is the only way to go when it comes for damage, despite I only gave him Meteor and Cyclone hoping that he would know when to use them, it's not the case. So this is why I suggest that if you are going to have a sorcerer in your party, that it's someone else's sorcerer. And if you have your main pawn as the mage, exactly how is you want him to be, you can actually be the guy doing all the damage that needs to be done to your enemies, so you can get rid of them as fast as possible. Here I am doing my job, curing my pawns, which is what I'm supposed to do, buffing them in the process, and trying to stay away from combat, try to stay away as much as I can. But I gotta say, playing as a pawn, which is basically what I'm doing, being a mage, you or yourself being a mage, you are basically playing as a pawn. It's very boring. I do not recommend it. I do recommend, again, mage as your main pawn, but me, not so much. I actually got myself in the middle of that attack for no reason. I don't know why I got so close to the enemy. I think I just wanted to cast that spell where the Sphinx Mother was. Here I am trying to cast another buff, but she's down again, and she's gonna get raised by the headless phantom and get hit massively, while the thief, Lyanna, is down there, dead, being useless. My Gandalf actually fell for some reason, and he decided that he needed a vacation, so he went all the way around to come back into this fight. Now, if you watched any of my previous build videos, you know this headless phantom would be dead by now, but so dead. So dead that it's just indescribable how boring it is for me to still be here recording this video, so you guys can see for yourselves that being a mage sucks. Get your own pawns as mages, do not play as a mage. Please, save yourselves the trouble of doing this. If you want to level up the vocation, I understand. I did the same because I wanted some of the augments you get from the mage. But God almighty, this is painful. Now, Gandalf finally decided that casting the flare on the guy was a good idea, which it actually was. We finally managed to do a good amount of damage. But did you notice that it was mostly me casting Magic Bolt that got those explosions going? It shouldn't be the case. I shouldn't be the one having to attack the enemy to get those explosions going. I am a mage. I'm supposed to just heal you guys. In any case, take notice of this goblin. I am actually going to be the one to kill the goblin because the Sphinx Mother is still half stunned, walking in its direction, and Gandalf was casting Meteor. God, this is annoying. Because of this, I decided that Gandalf needed some punishing, and there you go, mate. You are useless as a sorcerer. I'm done with you. You are going back to being a mage, and I'm going back to not being a pawn. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a bit odd compared to my previous build videos where I normally showcase the good things about being that vocation, but again, mages should be pawns, not us. Please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't just yet, and I'll see you in the next one after I'm done. Cheerio!